So that was a very, very tough one. That was a real tough one for, honestly, for the Indiana Fever. That was a tough loss because they were in that game. They were up, and there were a couple of decisions. Like, they didn't start off well, but they pulled it back in the third quarter. And there's only so many games, so long. It's like, okay, yeah, we lost this game, but we learned from the game. And you could even say that, like, obviously the Fever are getting better and better. The Storm aren't the greatest team in the world. Neko Nwumeke played. Like, they had their full team. So it's not like they were as weakened as they were expected to be. But still, the Fever didn't get the job done. But the Fever they're not going to be the worst team in WNBA this year. They're almost certainly not going to be the worst team in WNBA. A not great start, but like, I don't see them going and making the playoffs. No one is expecting that, I don't think, other than the few people thought Clark was going to be one of the best players in the WNBA straight away. But there are a couple of decisions that, well, there's one major decision that Christy Sides needs to make as far as coaching is concerned. But the big change is that Christy Sides needs to make is, for the sake of this person and for the sake of the team, is putting Alia Boston to the bench. And the reason why there's so much discourse around Alia Boston is that Alia Boston was meant to have been. Like, she was an all-star as a rookie. She's had one of the best rookie years in a long time. She was meant to be not only the number 2 to Caitlin. In reality, from people that have been watching this league, thought she was the number 1 player on this team. She's meant to be the best player on this team. But it very clearly is Caitlin Clark, Mitchell, Fagbenley. Or maybe on that one. Smith. Probably Smith, Fagbenley. Like, Alia Boston is not only not performing like an all-star, she's not performing like a starter. And I genuinely do think she's going to be fine. I think she's going to be absolutely fine. But I do think bringing her off the bench takes some of the pressure off her. She's not going to be expected to be a game changer because I actually don't think she's in good enough shape to do that this season. I don't think it's anything really to do with all the social media stuff. You might be able to make that excuse for today after obviously the missed shot in the last game. And she made a couple of nice shots in the last game. Caitlin Clark found her a few times to pick and roll, but she wasn't good in the last game either. I know she got the block before Caitlin Clark's 3. The problem is she's too slow to play defense. She doesn't rebound anymore. She was the best offensive rebounder in WNBA last year. She just doesn't rebound anymore. And her sharpness isn't there. Like, anyone who plays basketball knows, if you're not playing, the sharpness goes quick. And it's not like, sometimes it might even be a fitness issue. It's like, if a ball is 2 feet away from you, the reaction time to go grab it, the reaction time when the ball's thrown at you, being able to react on time. If you said reaction about 3 times, but there's more to sharpness than that. It's being sharp in your rotations. It's just being quick up here. And she's very clearly not sharp. She looks like somebody that hasn't played basketball, someone who hasn't, and the way she's playing, it's very clear she's good. But she just looks like somebody who, instead of taking whatever the offseason, I think it's like September to April, so it's nearly 8 months, who instead of 8 months out has taken it 2 years out. But she's also probably never had that much of a break from basketball before. And she was working for ESPN, she was really good at that. And obviously, just this offseason, it's her first big offseason. So it's not out of the realm possibility that she just focused on that, she focused on some other stuff, and it did take away from the basketball. And that's fine, because I don't think it's going to happen again. And I do think if they want to stick with Alia Boston long term in Indiana, she'll be better next year. The only big problem is that I don't think any version of Alia Boston fits with Caitlin Clark. And that's really where Indiana have got to start making their decisions, is like, do they want to hope and pray that Alia Boston gets back to where she was last year? And if Alia Boston gets back to where she was last year, she was looking like she was going to be a franchise player. Do they want to try bring in a superstar, try to almost bring in a superstar with her? Because you'll get if you can make things work, you'll get a superstar in a trade for Caitlin Clark. Do they want to do that? Which is highly unlikely. Or do you want to just bring in someone that can fit better with Caitlin Clark? Because, like, I was saying it as a joke, being like, who says no, Alia Boston for Angel Reese? Like, I think, ironically enough, like, Alia Boston with Cardoso might not be a bad front court, but she's just not at the races. And I think it saves her from her own pressure, because the only reason that there's pressure on Alia Boston, it's not based on anything these people have seen. It's based on what they've heard. So the people that are going, like, expecting too much of Alia Boston are, in fairness, like, I watched her last year and expected it, but I think people didn't really watch a lot of the preseason, where she did not look good in preseason. She didn't look good in game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, they have lost, of their 5 games, they've lost 3. They've lost 2 of their 5 games by more than 10 points. Alia Boston has been minus 10 plus in all 5 games. And she was minus 18 today. She was minus 18. The team is worse with her on the floor, but there is, like, if she was playing 12 minutes a game, I still think she can be effective in a bench role. She can play her way into shape and get that starting spot back, because she is a more talented player than Fagbenle. But Fagbenle suits. She fits in better, and the team is better with her on the floor. I think bringing her off the bench might take a bit of the pressure off her. It might take a bit of the weight off her shoulder. She can play her way into shape this season, and if the Fever do start to pick up a bit of form, she's going to be fine. But, like, she's not going to be an all-star this year. She didn't come in ready. Like, she didn't come in ready. It's her second season. Sophomore slumps happen. With the huge long off season in the WNBA, genuinely, like, it's very easy. It's very easy to lose that focus and come into a league not quite where you were. And if you're not, it's one of those leagues where there's so few spots and the talent level is so high, especially at that forward position, where if you're not ready, you're going to get punished, and she's not ready. So I do think bringing her off the bench will help that team an awful lot, because the lineup without her, the team without her is much better. But I also think if she starts to play her way into shape in the minutes where Caitlin Clark's off the floor and they're trying to slow down, or certain situational play when they try to slow down. I actually don't think there is a situation where Caitlin Clark should be on the floor in a we just want to control this game and slow, because Caitlin Clark plays at one pace, go, go, go. And when she's not playing at the go, go, go pace, she's not good. And that is actually a big flaw with Caitlin Clark, that she has to have the right players around her, because when she is not at that breakneck speed, she's not actually very good. Like, she does certain things really well, but she's not very good. She isn't good in a slowdown system. And Alia Boston isn't in shape to run up and down with her. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, and I don't really envy Christy Sides, because Boston was their all-star last year. She was the coach. It was her first year as head coach. Boston was her first all-star. Like her, and she was meant to be the franchise player, and then she got Caitlin Clark dumped on her, and clearly wants to play a play style probably that suits more of an Alia Boston, who's not ready this year either way. But it's going to be a tough one. I don't see Christy Sides lasting long, to be honest. Those subs at 5 minutes were I've never seen anything. That's an awful coaching blunder. But again, it's a regular season. It's her second year. She's learning, but I do think what's needed to be done is just make that rotation. Like Benley in the starting 5, Boston off the bench, I think it helps not only their team, it helps Alia Boston. It allows her to get back into it, and it just allows the Indiana Fever to play to their strengths. And not even play to their strengths, play to Caitlin Clark's strengths. And Caitlin Clark's strengths help all the others, as we've seen in as we saw in like the fourth quarter of the last game, and what we saw in this game. Because when Caitlin Clark and Alia Boston are on the floor together, the team looks absolutely terrible. And very clearly right now, you're not siding with Alia Boston, because Caitlin Clark is showing in that lineup. She's as good as advertised, and Alia Boston is just not at the races at all so far this year.